Welcome to How to Be the Difference with your hosts, Joanna and Paul. A podcast for the career you want, or maybe just that push you need. If you want to know what your dream career looks like, join us to get inspiration from industry experts that will make that dream career a reality.
Hello and welcome to How to Be the Difference with your hosts, Joanna Molina.
I'm Paul Insky.
How are you, Paul?
I'm very good. It's a little bit overcast today, but we've had a fantastic weekend. We've just come out of a very sunny period, which is quite unusual for Ireland. How are you doing? Whereabouts in the world are you now, Joanna?
Yes, I agree with you. I am near you, very close, but very far because my visa wouldn't allow me to go and visit you. I'm in the UK at the moment, and getting here, I think I mentioned in a previous episode that I was in the US, then I went to Mexico, and then here. Traveling during these times is actually very, very difficult. There's a lot of paperwork. There's loads of PCR tests that you need to do. There's quarantines involved. It's interesting.
Definitely. And it's funny you should bring up traveling, because our guest today is, I suppose, like we have during this whole period, it's shown us that we can work remotely from anywhere in the world.
Yes.
We can move to different places and we can still continue on with that lifestyle now, because, you know, all work nearly can be done online bar some specifics. So we've got a very special guest today who has moved and relocated to a completely different part of the world, set up a business and works remotely in that business, and has a base there. So I'm super excited for that one.
Very interesting what you say. Our guest today, not only she relocated, but also she's helping other people relocate. Isn't that right?
That's absolutely correct. And I think it's time to jump into it. I just want to give everyone a reminder. If you can, like and subscribe to the podcast, that will be doing us the world of good. And we can get more ears on this and help them make the change they need. So let's jump into it. Lauren Bonheim is a serial expat, avid traveler and transformational coach, empowering women around the world to dream big and then take action to make those dreams their reality. Lauren is passionate about helping others achieve their full potential and loves working with women who have the drive and courage to become the best versions of themselves. Lauren specializes in one-on-one coaching and consulting and helps her clients realize their full potential. Her signature CMA coaching framework has helped clients get hired overseas, move abroad, embrace location independence, travel long-term, and launch online businesses, to name but a few. Designing life on your own terms and seeing different ways of living. You're very welcome along, Lauren. Thanks a million for joining us. And supposed to start it off, whereabouts in the world are you now?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today. And I am currently located in Madrid, Spain. This is my home base. That being said, in a few days, I'll be flying back to the States for about a month and a half. So, you know, all kind of part of that digital nomad life. I'm always kind of moving around a little bit, but my home base is in Madrid, Spain right now.
Excellent. So originally you are from the States?
Yes, I am from Long Island, New York. So whenever I say I'm from New York, people just automatically assume that I'm from, you know, the city, Manhattan. And that is so not the case. I am from Long Island, but pretty far out. So I grew up in a very rural town, lots of fields, vineyards, beaches, really, really beautiful, but not at all like a city environment. It was very much a small town environment.
That's great. Lauren, what makes you so passionate about living abroad or working overseas?
Wow. Where do I even start? I can truly say that I am who I am today because of living abroad and the different places I've lived, the different cultures I've experienced. They've all contributed a little bit to who I am today in some way. And so if you asked me that question just 10 years ago, I was a very different person at that point in my life. And that's because, quite frankly, I grew up in a bubble, a bubble where everyone was following the same path, chasing similar dreams, this American dream, that we're presented with in the States, go to college, get a secure 9-to-5, work your way up the corporate ladder, get married, have kids, work more, retire, that whole path that, we all see as like the template for life that we're handed. I was gung ho on following that. And even further, I would say I was really set on excelling at it. Into my early 20s, I was a total workaholic. I have been working and interning and looking for creative ways to make money probably my whole life, I would say. So anyway, long story short, after graduating college early and getting my dream job offer, I had one of those kind of typical, movie moments, that crisis moment where you kind of just look at everything that you have created and it was all working out the way I had planned it to. I had all this money saved in the bank, all this experience, these internships under my belt. And now it was just time to settle into this path I created for myself. I had the job offer, it was all working out the way I had planned. And I took a hard look at all of it and realized none of it was what I really wanted. I had been pursuing a path that I thought I should be following, doing what I was supposed to be doing. And none of it felt right. None of it felt like what I actually wanted. So I guess like long answer for your question there, but I turned down that dream job offer, dream job at the time, and booked a one-way ticket to Spain instead. And that really just changed everything for me, everything. And living abroad has opened my eyes in so many ways, just showed me that there's not only this one life template, there's not only one way to do life. It's really helped me pave my own path, showed me different cultures, and I've learned so much about different traditions and have really had that space being abroad to experiment with how I want my life to be, how I want to live, and kind of pick and choose different cultural norms, different traditions, different pieces of these things that I'm learning and incorporate it into how I want my life to be, who I want to be.
And that's inspirational. The first question that comes to my mind is, how do you do that? How clear were you back then in the decisions that you had to make? So you just mentioned how important it is to you to create life in your own hands, kind of rejecting that job offer. What were the steps that you will say for someone out there thinking, I also want to create my life on my terms? What do you need to create life on your terms?
That's a really good question. And I think the answer is probably different for everyone. What it really starts with is clarity around what that looks like for you. So it can be hard to get that clarity when we're all, as I mentioned, I grew up in this bubble and I didn't really know that there was other options, that other options even existed for me. And so really just taking a good look inward, looking at your values, looking at what's important to you, and comparing that to what it is that you have been presented as this life template, and asking yourself, does this really fit with what I want for myself? Does this really fit what's important to me, what I value? And if it doesn't, if there's something that's not aligning there, that's probably a good place to start looking, to start experimenting, to start looking outside of what you've learned, what you've experienced, and looking to other places, other people, other cultures to see what other options are out there for you. It's hard to really create your idea of this perfect life or this dream life without having all of your options. So for me, it's all experimentation. It's all getting curious and realizing that your first stab at it might not be perfect, but you're learning in the process, and each time you're getting closer.
That's amazing, Lauren. And I suppose for people listening, and I suppose the way the world has changed over the last 16, 18 months, and people are moving to more a digital lifestyle. What did you find personally was the biggest challenge moving abroad? And, also just, I suppose, a follow-up, what steps would you have done differently?
Without a doubt, I would have to say that this has to do with mindset. And I get some pushback on this sometimes. People often come to me specifically looking for strategy and logistics. And I definitely had that way of thinking before having this whole experience of living abroad, that I just needed to do. It's all about the strategy and the action plan and the logistics. But when we really have the time to dig deeper and find out what's really holding us back, what's really getting in our way from anything, whether that's moving abroad or making a change, changing career paths, really whatever it is, it's usually something deeper. And what we find a lot of the time, which really happened to me as well, is that we are our own biggest obstacles. So when I say that, obviously strategy and logistics is a big part of it, especially with the current state of the world and what's going on. A lot of things have changed and there's lots of travel restrictions and things like that. But the thing with strategy and logistics is they can be figured out. We have Google at our fingertips and just all of this information that we can sift through. And whatever you want to do, whether it's moving abroad, whatever it is, there's likely someone else out there who has already done it and is sharing how they did it, so that how and that strategy piece, that perfectly laid out action plan, isn't usually the main thing that's holding people back. And more often than not, we're holding ourselves back in some way, some kind of fear or doubt, or we're not willing to give up the comfortable life we've created. We aren't willing to be flexible and see things from other perspectives. And I also think it's important to mention here my own personal privilege. I am a white, educated, able-bodied woman from the US who also happens to be a native English speaker, which does open a lot of opportunities abroad. And I'm really not trying to discount that there are very real external obstacles to making a move abroad, and that making that move is definitely easier for some people than others. It is. What I do want to say is that I've personally seen so many diverse people from all different backgrounds make a move abroad possible for them, and in really creative ways that I would never have even thought of or considered or imagined. There are so many amazing people out there doing amazing things and paving the way to show others that if moving abroad is something they truly want, it is possible. So again, that mindset is really the key piece, truly believing that it is possible for you, which helps to fight through the fear and resistance and overcome the external obstacles to actually make that move possible. So when it comes to steps, it's really different for everyone, depending on what you want your experience, your move abroad to look like. But I would say it really starts with that mindset of really believing that you can do it and building that determination, that motivation to keep moving forward, even when there's setbacks, even, if there's a roadblock, not seeing that as the end of the road, but just seeing it as part of the process, part of the journey. And if this is what you really want, continuously moving forward until you get it.
And, I suppose like now work has become remote for the most part. And in a lot of cases, we don't really know what the office dynamic is going to be like post pandemic. With more of an opportunity to be remote, would you recommend for some people who are on the fence about it, getting a remote work job first and then traveling, or, moving somewhere else and kind of overcoming that roadblock, as you said?
So again, that's a little difficult to answer just because I see everyone's experience as unique. So I have some clients who do have remote jobs, or that is their main focus, is transitioning to a remote job, to something that allows location independence so that they can move abroad or travel long term. That being said, other people, the whole point of them moving abroad is to have that experience of living and working in that place. So getting to work within that culture, within that work environment. So it's really, I wouldn't recommend that someone get a remote job unless that's the type of lifestyle that they are looking for. Remote work isn't for everyone. I even have clients who thought that that was what they wanted. And then when they actually tried it out, realized that they really value that experience of being with other people in the office, of communicating with them, of having that human connection, which is a bit difficult when you're working on your own or working remote. So it really starts with figuring out, what does this look like for you ideally? Does it look like having that location independence so you can move around a lot? What is your purpose? What is your why for making this move? And once you really get down to the reason or the motivation behind the move, it's easier to then design what that experience would look like for that person.
Yes, and I suppose currently the the perception that we have of remote work is under a global pandemic, right? So it's not necessarily the truth remote work that will be with all the benefits when you are allowed to get out of your own home. Right now, I'm quarantining in the UK, so it's very different when you are working remotely, but also not even being able to go out at all. And working remotely does not necessarily mean that you don't interact in person. But then I like to explore more something that you mentioned, Lauren, on the support system and the network. How do you build a network or a support system abroad?
That is one of the things that most of my clients and most people that I meet who are moving abroad, it's one of the things that they are the most nervous about. You know, it's starting over and rebuilding your network, your community from scratch. What I've actually seen is that it's a really unique experience to rebuild that network and connect with people abroad. Not only are you connecting with people in that culture, so people, you know, locals who are from that place, but it also gives you an opportunity to connect with other people who are in that same position as you. So other people who have made the move, who maybe aren't from that place. But what that means is you probably have a lot in common with those people, and you have a similar mindset, you have similar goals, similar dreams. And so you can connect with these people on a whole nother level than maybe you would back at home. And those people are also looking for that same type of connection. They're also wanting to network. They're also new in this place. And while I always say it's important, at least in my personal experience, to connect with the locals and get to know people who are actually from the place you're moving to, I don't like to say that, you know, that's the only way to make connections, because that really closes you off to these other types of relationships that you could have. And I would say today, some of my absolute best friends in the entire world, who are all scattered all over the world right now, because again, we kind of have this similar mentality of moving and experiencing new places, but they have just become my absolute closest friends. They are my people. They get me. They get what I want my life to look like. They are very similar in that way. And it has just really opened me up to all different types of connections. And you can do that through things like Facebook groups, or Meetup is a great app to do that, or a great website, I guess, to find people who are doing things that you like to do, like going for hikes or something to do with art. Really seeking out these interests or hobbies of yours and reintroducing them to your life abroad can help you connect with people who are in similar positions. And obviously, this has become a bit more complicated in the current state of the world. But a lot of things are opening up, and there's a lot of more online networking events now. Just here in Madrid, and I also know back in Santiago, Chile, where I've also lived, there were all kinds of networking events all the time, specifically for people from other countries, people who wanted to meet other international people. And so it takes some effort on your part, but if you're looking for it, you really can find those connections abroad.
That's excellent advice. Thanks for that, Lauren. Just, I suppose, moving it on a little bit to your career, and I was doing some research, and it really stuck out before we actually got to meet. And could you actually tell us a little bit, I suppose, about your coaching and how it works?
Yeah, of course. So I am a certified transformation and mindset coach, and I work with mostly women. I have worked with, couples and men as well, but I mostly work with women who want to stray from the conventional path and live life on their terms. So a lot of the time that looks different for everyone, but in the past it has looked like moving abroad, traveling long term, transitioning to location independence, transitioning career paths to something that they're more passionate about. Like I said, it looks a little bit different for everyone, but it's really this idea of not just following the life template that we've been handed, but really looking a little bit deeper and designing the life that really fits the lifestyle that you're looking for. And I guess my method, if we want to go into some of that, I've developed my signature coaching method, which is my CMA method, which stands for clarity, mindset, and action. So those are the 3 pillars that I've seen through working with women around the world that most people need support around. And it's become kind of this formula that I've seen to really get from where you are to where you want to be. So it all starts, as I mentioned before, with clarity, really getting clear on what this looks like. What is this dream opportunity for you? What do you want your life to look like? Who do you want to be? What are these things that are important to you? So really getting a clear picture that can act as a compass or a roadmap to then designing that life. So without that clarity, oftentimes we can get a little lost or, end up following someone else's path or taking detours, really not following and being able to make our decisions based on this firm clarity that we have in what we want. So I always say that that's step number 1 is really figuring that out. And it's not something that you have to have completely figured out before you get started. A lot of clarity comes through actually taking action and moving forward with things, but at least having an idea of, what direction you want to be going into. And then mindset comes in always, with when we start working towards that, a lot of things can come up. It could be a mix of fear, doubt, not thinking that you're good enough, not thinking that it's possible for you. A lot of mindset stuff really is the big obstacle there a lot of the time. And then action is just that key piece that ties it all together. We can't get anywhere if we're not taking action. And again, a lot of clarity, a lot of mindset breakthroughs, a lot of confidence comes through actually taking action, which could seem counterintuitive at the time. We want to have clarity. We want to feel confident. We want to have all these things before we start taking steps, but really solidifying those things comes through taking the steps, if that makes sense. So that's kind of my signature process that I usually go through with women. That being said, everything that I do is fully customized. And again, that's because I don't believe in this one size fits all template for life, for career, for coaching. Really, I just believe that everyone is unique. Everyone has different goals, different experiences, different problems that they want to work on. So really having flexibility to work with people around what it is that they're looking for and what they need.
That sounds amazing. And I suppose you are based in Madrid now, you're working remotely, and it sounds really, really interesting. And can you tell us a little bit about what your balance is like now? And is there anything that you change?
So sorry, just to clarify, balance as far as work-life balance or what type of balance?
Yeah, I would say work-life balance. Just, I suppose, living abroad, working remotely, is there anything that you could see yourself changing, or are you really happy with how things are going?
Interesting question. As far as work-life balance, I am pretty happy right now with my work-life balance. Being an entrepreneur, it's one of those things where you can work as much or as little as you want. You're the only one that you're counting on. So no one's really waiting for you, aside from clients. No one is putting deadlines on you or telling you that you have to get something done by a certain time, which is a double-edged sword. It can be a really great thing. It can also be a really complicated thing to navigate in the beginning of entrepreneurship. It's taken a lot of trial and error, but I think up until this point, I've been able to find a really great balance for myself in that I have pretty relaxed mornings. Most of my clients are in the States. So that means that here in Madrid, they are sleeping, when I first get up, and I have until early afternoon to get any work done that doesn't involve clients. So any admin work, content planning, all of that background type of work done before my clients are even awake a lot of the time. And so that has created this really nice balance where if there's a morning where I am just really tired or really not feeling well or whatever it is, I have the freedom to choose how my mornings are going to look, what time I'm going to get started with work. I do a lot of my exercise and errands and things in the morning, and then have a little bit of later nights with work, which I'm actually really happy with because I tend to get like a second wind, late afternoon. So work-life balance for me has become such an important part of this whole experience of my life, my business, everything. And a lot of that has changed. Growing up in the Northeast, growing of the United States, growing up in New York specifically, we are not really taught to value work-life balance. We're taught that you have to work yourself to the bone, work your way up the corporate ladder, and you're kind of living for this future, living for that day when you're finally going to get to the point where you don't have to work so much, living for that retirement, living for this arbitrary moment when you finally get to enjoy the fruits of your labor. And living abroad, starting my own business has really showed me that that's not the only way to do things. It's really opened me up to creating my own life balance, work-life balance, to designing what I want that to look like. And that has just been completely incredible. It has changed everything for me.
That's amazing, Lauren. Thanks for sharing that with us. And I suppose, what's the next step for you? Where do you see your career going?
What's next? That is a great question. I have to say that right now, I am extremely happy in Madrid. Madrid is my happy place. It's just, I am absolutely head over heels in love with this city. I have a really great network that I've created for myself here, really great friends. And I am really happy here. This is actually my third time around living here. I studied here when I was in college and lived here after graduation, and just recently moved back about a year and a half ago. So right now I'm very content working with my clients, running my life coaching business, being abroad in Madrid. And that being said, you never know what's next. You never know what opportunity is going to present itself. We're obviously also in a kind of a unique situation with the pandemic right now. So because I am comfortable and I'm happy in my current situation, I'm not pushing for a move anytime soon. I'm really focused on continuing to create my life here, continuing to scale my business, launching some new offers so that I can work with different people in different ways. And just really continuing to design and develop this unique path that I've already been creating for myself. So I do truly believe that there's no real destination, that the journey itself is the destination. And so right now I'm really focused on the present and just enjoying everything that I have created for myself up until this point. And I guess what's next, we'll just have to stay tuned, it's always in motion.
If people want to find out more about you, Lauren, or catch you somewhere, can you give us your social media?
Yes, of course. So you can pretty much find me on any platform, but the main platform that I'm always on and that I love to use is Instagram. So you can find me at Lauren on Location, and I'm super active over there. I'm always sharing like free mini trainings. So Wednesdays are my days to hop on and share coaching content, mini trainings around moving abroad, designing your freedom lifestyle, all the juicy stuff that I give out on Wednesdays. And I also have my website, laurenonlocation.com. And so that's Lauren, my name, on location.com, same as my Instagram handle at laurenonlocation. And on my blog, I share lots of travel guides, again, different mindset shifting tips, lots of stuff. So it's kind of like a mixed bag of coaching, mindset, clarity, action, and of course, living and traveling abroad. So if anyone wants to connect, I always love meeting new people, love, sharing my experience and helping in any way I can. So please don't hesitate to reach out.
Lauren, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been fun.
What an excellent chat from Lauren there. And I've been checking out her LinkedIn, her Instagram, all looks fantastic. I think everyone should do as well. But Joanna, we were speaking about, digital nomads and living abroad, and something that we have to face with this is sometimes you might have terrible Wi-Fi connection.
Oh, yes. And today was one of those days. I was very, very frustrated. I hope you can't really notice it because of the magic of edition and you, Paul, covering me as well. But it was frustrating. I was asking a question and then Lauren and you hearing it like 30 seconds later.
Yeah, we're like, turn off your video, turn it back on, turn it off again. Actually, we'll try and get out and we'll come back in and it should be fine. So yeah, it was challenging, but Joanna, we got there in the end. Hopefully it all makes sense when it's put together.
Yeah, absolutely. Internet is a human right for sure, and it's basic need. So yeah, high-speed internet, you only really realize how important it is when you have it very, very slow. So yeah, we got it there. We got
Absolutely.
it there.
I think you touched on something very interesting there. Internet is a human right. I mean, that's another podcast in itself. Maybe we'll go into in the future, because I mean, people are working from home, kids are going to school from home now. Yeah. And I think it's something very important you hit on there, but we'll definitely get into it again. But thank you very much for today, Joanna.
Thank you. And thank you, Lauren. We really enjoyed this chat with you. And I hope that there's some interesting jewels there for people wanting to relocate or be a digital nomad. And you can reach us at howtobuildadifference@theinterngroup.com or on social media @theinterngroup.
That's exactly correct. And if you could, please rate and review the podcast. That helps us reach more people and hopefully help them as well. So thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Joanna. And I'll see you next time.
Thank you, and see you next time.